because we are, of course, part of the antitrust policy, and members are the agenda, which I don't have published because it's always the same. It's review the videos we have and work on the scripts for the ones we're going to get and talk about our impact. The latest video statistics for us. Let me pull that window out. Okay, since this gets recorded and shared everywhere. There. Okay, so just FYI, the latest statistics, the where did documents live got almost 600 views and one dislike.
And one what?
One dislike. Aw, maybe we didn't talk about their favorite storage method or something. I don't know.
That's great.
Yeah, so
How
that's
many videos are there total now?
8 published, and there's another 2 or 3 coming.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So yes, so so Neil and I were talking last week. I'm gonna put there. I got a new webcam also. I picked it up at a discount bin somewhere. I'm gonna pull up the document now. So for bite-sized trust scripts, I'm gonna share that in the chat. And then I'm gonna pull it out for sharing on the recording. Window, okay. Okay. So, yeah, those are the latest ones. The finished scripts published by if we get down. So where did documents live? And then after that is coming resolving a did identifier to a did document, and then detecting did document duplicity. So yeah, those are, and then I started on the next script. I don't have anything about verifiable presentations yet. I don't
Yeah.
know. Right now everything I know about is about did, so I've been writing about did. So uh now I have a script, nice and short, but I like it. Passwords versus keys
Mm-hmm.
for proving who you are online, and then all the different types of keys in a did document. And then when I was having the chat, Neil was like, oh, well, because I started giving details about it, and then he's like, well, let's put those details in another document, in
Right.
other videos. So I'm going to have the authentication, the authorization, agreement keys, which I don't know anything about really, other than it's for establishing the communication for like DIDCOM and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably then for the establishment of a symmetrical key for much faster encrypted communication. And then the capability and delegation and invocation keys. So from what I had researched and learned after the last meeting with AI, is that that's the delegation and invocation of these other types of did keys. So you can delegate that you can delegate to some other did your authentication key for, say, logging into a specific API or something like that. So it's not, so the capabilities that you're delegating are that's from a very short list of key capabilities.
So I've got a did, and my did has keys which I control, which
Yeah,
allows me to make assertions, establish communication lines, whatever.
yeah,
Got this did, and that's my did. And
yeah.
then I've got keys that were generated upon creation of that did.
Your controller keys.
Well, you don't have controller keys here, but those are the initial, those are
Those
the,
are, that's a subset of authentication key. That's what I was like, where are the controller keys? And they're like, one of your authentication keys can be the controller key for the did. Or
but I
you,
mean, what is the minimal amount of keys that you need to generate a did?
and then you
I
just
mean,
need one.
or what is the minimum amount of keys that can be generated?
I think
Because
you can keep going.
no, but I mean the minimum, the minimal amount to, when you generate or
One,
create a
because
did.
like, for example, did key is just a key that can never be rotated.
So, and that's a key that allows you to control the did, or is it a key
Yeah.
pair? A key pair.
Well, it's key pair.
Right.
It's the public key and then you keep the private key private.
Okay. And so there's only one public key and it's got this matching private key,
Yeah.
right? And that private key and that minimal um whatever this minimal generation, whatever. Okay, so you've generated a
Yeah.
pair and you got a public and a private, and that public key is okay, people to communicate with you or outsiders to communicate with you, but the private key, is that the authentication key?
Well, yeah, yeah. So the both keys have to work together. Your private key is used to like your private key is used to sign the updates,
Yeah.
and then the everyone can see your public key, which is the pair, which is used to authenticate your private key.
Yeah.
Because
Hi, Scott.
hello.
And so yeah, so you've got, so if you go back to your document, you've got the or those different keys. So you've
Yeah.
got authentication, you are the subject and controller.
Yeah, a controller is a subset of an is a specific type of authentication key. Because your authentication keys for service X, use this key. For service Y, use this key. For controlling this did, use this key.
And those are authentic, those are all authentication keys.
Those are all authentication keys, and they don't have to be a key. You can say for controlling this thing, use the keys you find in this did.
Yeah, okay.
So you can and that was part of the did PLC Blue Sky. There I go, touching my face again. Um, Blue Sky is was separating their controller authentication keys outside of the the did PLC because they saw it as a security risk or whatever.
Okay. All right. And then you have assertion keys. Why would they be different?
Yeah, because then that's what I was like, oh, I guess they're specifying that each different key can be responsible for a limited number, like one task. Because you can just keep generating more keys and then it's less of a security risk. Because if
Uh,
somebody, yeah. And then
compromise.
so yeah, so the assertion keys are when you sign like a verifiable credential, like any kind of thing that you're making an assertion about, then you can sign that with your public assertion key.
Hmm. And then there are key agreement keys, which are used to set up encrypted communication.
Yeah. So when and again, I don't know why they need it. Well, I mean, it's a different functionality. When you're setting up encrypted communication, you are what you do, roughly, as I understand, is that it's very inefficient to keep decrypting and encrypting with asymmetric keys. They're very computationally expensive. So the first thing you do with your asymmetric key pair is you communicate and agree on a secret key that you will both use that is symmetric for communication. And then now your communication is encrypted and it's much less computationally intensive.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that happens.
Asymmetric is inherently more latent because you have to go. Symmetric keys, you have all the information that you need to encrypt the data. You know.
Yeah.
So
And then
I have learned that.
you have learned that too. Okay. Scott,
But you're learning a lot more than I am. I mean, you're delving into this to where you're explaining it. So I think there's a lot of. I'm just going to try to catch up by listening to all these things.
yeah, I was just saying I had posted the other video. So the latest video statistics, the last video was where do did documents live? It has about almost 600 views and five thumbs up and one thumbs down. But I don't know why somebody would give it a thumbs down.
I
I'm
know,
curious.
yeah. What's with that? Who would give thumbs down to Carly? You know?
Maybe their favorite key method, maybe their favorite method wasn't on the list, or
Yeah,
uh,
that's yeah.
or it's like factually incorrect. I'm curious about the factually incorrect, but and of course, I mean, like, these are 2-minute videos. I have to gloss over details and make,
Yeah,
yeah, make
you're limited to what, 3 minutes max or something.
yeah, yeah. And then the key delegate capability delegation and the capability invocation keys is when, which I, which is, I have to figure out why, because for an authentication key, I can give you the key, or I can say the key is found in that did document. So I'm curious, how is that different from me delegating that capability to that did document? There's something different there, but I don't know what it is. Other than, yeah, I guess the first one is you have to passively you have to find that other did, which is acting passively. But when I delegate it, that did can go out to the world, or the object that is identified by the did that controls the did with the signing key can go out to the world and say, on behalf of Eric, I'm going to, I'm going to sign all of Eric's statements about his favorite bands. Let's say that's your authentication. That's your assertion. Eric has um, so you have that entity is acting without your has been delegated that ability, and then when somebody says, oh, can you do that, it says, yeah, you see I've invoked that capability, and then you can go back to the corresponding host and find that there indeed was a delegation of that ability.
Losing me.
Oh shit. Good to know. Good to
I
know.
need
Yeah.
picture. I need picture. I need pictures.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have to, that capability and invocation, the delegation and invocation is going to be a bit of a pig to write.
Was to actually carry out actually the disauthorized capability invocation. I guess they're just trying to, this is when you want to get really granular and say, listen, you have this I'm giving you this capability, and you're going to use this key specifically for that capability so we can track and audit and log and control and all that kind of stuff. I guess
Yeah, but the capabilities are limited. You can't give it any capability. You can only give it authentication abilities, assertion abilities, or agreement abilities. So you
But I
can't
mean,
go.
just the capability to access a tool means you get authenticated, and once you've
Yeah,
authenticated, like you present that you've got this special key that says you have you have the right to access this tool, and then you use your authentication key to access that tool.
yeah, yeah. On behalf of you, the
Yeah,
person who has delegated that. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, the reason I got into keys, well, so the delegation and invocation keys I think are going to be pretty significant ideas to understand in the concept of agentic AI, because that's who we're going to be wanting to delegate and have invocate our keys.
Maybe introducing the keys, if you show the workflow where these would all be used, and then you do like separate little videos for each kind of keys. Because
Right.
I think if you try to go over all those different keys in one and explain in
Yeah.
detail, it just gets too, we use the same words and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're all A's, authentication, assertion, and agreement. Thanks, guys. Okay, but I did need, this was kind of, this isn't so much explanatory as it is the table
scene
of
set.
contents telling you
Yeah,
what's coming up. And
yeah, exactly.
then, yeah, and then I'm going into the specifics of each key. And then I need Drummond and others to go on about DIDCOM and TSP.
All right, yeah. But you talked to Wenjing about that?
Yeah, so I started with talking with Wenjing about it, to get the points about, first we just started with DIDCOM. And then he started into trust spanning, and the details are so in the the details are so in the details. The differences are so in the details that I'm
Yeah.
like, boy, this is gonna be like I like it's not a um I'm gonna have to think about how to paint it as a big picture. And there's apparently a lot of politics around it as well, like a lot of sensitivities and concerns and
I
et
keep
cetera.
hearing that, but I don't know where they come from.
Yeah,
Against
well,
the DIDCOM community.
or the people who have paid to implement it and then saying, well, add another one.
Hmm.
I've also heard that people see trust spanning as the next version of DIDCOM that comes out because of, yeah, whatever
Well,
the shortcomings are or the new
but I
features.
understand that DIDCOMing is not, I mean, DIDs, so DIDCOM is the communication channel for DIDs.
Yeah,
Once you establish DIDs, and that's that communication channel. And
yeah,
I think this is just broader, saying they don't have to
yeah,
be exactly
DIDs,
any type of verifiable identifier.
right. I wonder if that opens the protocol so much that it becomes useless, or
Or
rather,
more interoperable.
yeah, 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 or yeah, because they talk about other types of verifiable identities. Like, for example, does not, carry can be poked to spit out a did document, but carry
Mm,
has a lot more data in the underlying data structure than just what appears in a did document. You know what I mean?
mm.
So I don't know if they're considering carry as a type of verifiable identifier that can then be consumed by the trust spanning protocol in a native form, as opposed to, it's spitting out a did doc, being kind of contorted to spit out a did document and then dropping a bunch of its, I don't know. I
I
don't know.
don't know. I think that if you show the verification method of
Yes.
then that's, you decide you decide on your use case and your communication methods, which verifiable
Yeah.
identifiers you're going to use.
Yeah. And I
And
don't
it,
have anything here yet. I mean, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm done with dids. And then I'm like, yeah, but I have this question. And then I end up writing the video about the question. So I haven't even started on um any kind of, like, other than the initial thing about how does one use dids? Like what's the point? Why?
Mhm.
So here we get to the point. The point is you have authentication keys for logging in, and I have a video about why keys have benefits over passwords for security. And then you have authorization, so you can sign statements, which you can never do with a password either. I mean, like, those are the benefits of moving to DID in the first place.
But I guess the point is we never see the keys, right? So for the audience, it's like everybody tells us we have these keys.
Well,
And they're,
I,
they've got this secret key that nobody ever sees, and it's hidden deep in this hardware security module.
yeah.
And so when we sign things, we just see UI and UX. And so all of these
Yep.
authentication keys, if our
Yep.
audience is developers or I don't know, cybersecurity professionals, I don't know. But for our audience,
Yep.
they just say sign this. And I'm like, okay, sign it. And
Yep.
I don't know if I'm just signing it with an authentication key or an authorization
Yeah.
key or a
Oh,
delegation key.
yeah. That's right. This is not for, hey, I want to use a did. This is more, yeah, because you're right. My simpler videos about what you can do with it are like the simple stories those were like the very first videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then this comes because I'm at the level of, I think there's a gap because you come to talk to somebody, because like I want to be, oh, let's uptake keys, let's do DIDs instead. And then immediately within the technology community or whatever, they're like, oh, we already can do something like that. And and then you're like, no, you can't because you can't do this. And that's where this level of detail comes in. And I'm not even getting into, because there's a whole other level below this about, which kind of cryptography which kind of cryptography you're using and the actual nuts and bolts of implementing it, which I'm not talking about here at all.
Hmm.
But
All
yeah.
right. Okay.
Do you have I mean, for you're right. How does this, like, I'm going under the surface here. What
No, I
does,
think it's good. I think it's good to explain that, for security or for spreading out, you're minimizing risk surface or what do they call it? Uh,
yeah.
for those kind of things, and also for having better control or more granular control. Um,
Um,
I guess when you talk about so when we talk about IAM, identity and access management, it's you've got these coarse rules and policies, and then you get down to granular. And I think when you go decentralized, you're putting a lot of that burden on the individual, and
yeah.
and so if you talk about all these different keys,
Well, so
then
one of
you're
the things for that is like a did is more than just logging into something. A better way than logging in. That's the first thing because
yeah,
I've never been able to sign anything and now I can. To
right,
sign
yeah,
any statements. And
yeah.
and the other thing is the agreement keys and DIDCOM. So I don't know if you saw in the news again, they had the 100,000 slaves in Myanmar's compounds, all doing pig butchering schemes and stuff like that. Did you see that?
No, but wow. What what
Yes,
what's recent about it? What I mean, what's the
the scale of it,
Mhm.
because it's flourishing because the government there cannot afford the time it takes to go in and clean out their slave compounds.
Well, yeah, they're also making a lot of money off it,
And
I'm
they're
sure.
making a lot of money off of it too.
I gotta go to I've got to
Okay.
jump on the next call, but
Okay. Thanks, Eric.
all right, see you guys.
Yeah, good questions.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. So Scott, you and me.
So I came to the meeting, you moved the meeting, so now I'm available. I was never available on
Yeah.
Fridays because that's when
Yep.
the performance program meets,
Hmm.
CTP. So I just, anytime I get a chance to talk to Carly, it brightens my day.
Oh,
And
there
I
we
did
go.
want to, I have been, listening to some of the ones that you've been posting on the bite size um, the Slack channel. So,
Right.
it's, I think you're doing a great job. I think it's needed. I think you took the initiative, you just made it happen. And,
Okay.
these are the things that I would hope more people would do. You're the epitome of, you want to make something happen, you do it. So I
Yeah.
know you and I and Drummond are supposed to meet. I have on my calendar today that we were going to meet
Oh, and
regarding the steering committee.
so the steering committee, so right now this is being recorded and then it goes up onto YouTube.
Okay,
So
so
then we'll talk about the steering committee stuff in the steering committee. I can't
let
remember.
me ask a question here that's relevant to that.
Yeah,
So the meeting here goes on YouTube and out and would have access. People that are not members of Trust over IP would have access to these meetings.
yes.
And that's what we decided to do.
Yeah, yes. And
Okay.
that's what Linux Foundation does for all of their videos. So if you go on their channel, you can see like looking Hyperledger cello meeting was just published 2 days ago.
There you go.
And Hyperledger Cacti maintainers meeting, and then Trust over IP Human Trust Working Group and the Trust Industry Task Force. So I have been, before we used to access it through registered into Zoom to see historical meetings, and now it's just all up on YouTube.
Yeah,
For better
maybe I
than
should
color.
listen to the cello meeting. I can have the background, they could play
I
music in
don't
the
think it's that
background.
musical.
So I really didn't have anything else to add. I know that there probably, as I had mentioned previously, there's probably a bite-size governance
Yep,
methodology or,
yep.
meta model thing that, that I should
So,
be putting on my plate. So we could
so
talk a little about that.
Scott, let me ask you a question. Like to tease out some ideas. So what's in if from a 3 minute thing or at the most, what's one single concept, the first concept that you want people to walk away with in like 15 words or 50 words or something like that?
Yeah, so I would say that the bite-sized trust would, in 3 minutes, you could walk around the uh, the governance figure eight
Yeah, but what's the
in a very light
yeah,
way, because I've given presentations on this and it takes 30 minutes or at least 15
yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
Takes 15 of a 30-minute to walk around everything. But
yeah,
what you could do, excuse me,
one,
is to introduce the elements.
yeah, and then go one by one because one of the like I think the first thing I would say is like coming from DIDS, how I would tie it in is I would be governance is embedded formally or informally in all the choices you make. For example, when you have a DID document, if you want to change keys, that's a governance decision. You might have only one person and not much formality about it, and you just decide to do it. But in a larger organization, who has the right to make those choices? That is what we talk, what those kinds of that the formalizing of that is what we call governance. And then I would go into now,
I wouldn't go there because a choice on DIDs are very low, that's a
yeah,
low hang, that's a the choices made on governance requirements deal with higher level risk mitigation. So when you look
right,
at there's a risk in the marketplace, you're not going to make a choice to say, oh, let's make a choice between DIDs. The choice at that is to use DIDs. or not used is. That would be a
Right,
higher level that I could see
right.
possibly
But
be there. But the example for governance, and I kind of pressure tested this with Stefan Wolf, actually, so who's actively involved in governance, and he's putting out governance documents on the verifiable trust. The introduction of governance that people can resonate to is in sports. So, you could pick your favorite game. Let's say, in Europe it would be football, or America it could be baseball or football. And we have a game, right?
mhm,
And if the game had no rules, no one would
right,
come. It would be
right,
chaos.
yeah,
Wouldn't be organized, it wouldn't be structured. No one would understand whether team won or not. Okay.
yeah,
So I'm a very big baseball fan. So especially now, and everybody who's listening to this YouTube can know that the Mariners are now in first place, and I'm very excited about that. So back in the 1800s, when they crafted the game of baseball, they designed the rules. They
yeah,
decided that they would have four bases, and that in order to get a point or a run, is you'd have to touch all the bases, and there were rules around how you could advance yourself on the base paths, and how many tries you had the opportunity to do that, and how many pitches, you know, good pitches or not good pitches, and where those pitches needed to be in order for your time at bat to conclude. Right? These are all rules that you had.
yeah,
That's governance rules. Okay,
yeah,
that's governance. They look at, okay, what's the risk? The risk is, if we didn't have rules, we'd have chaos. People
yeah,
would just show up and make their own rules and do whatever they thought they were, and people would say, this isn't a game that's really interesting to me, because they're not even following any rules, right?
yeah.
So we
Okay,
have the governance.
yeah,
The conformance program, all sports have a conformance program.
yeah, the
They
umpire,
hire officials
yeah,
that are trained to meet that study the requirements of the game,
yeah,
and they become trained on the rules, and they act during a game. They act as the arbiter of the rules. They don't make the rules.
yeah,
They interpret the rules.
yeah,
So, when a pitch is thrown, the rule says that the ball has to be within, a certain, the size of the plate,
yeah,
right up to
yeah,
your,
yeah,
your
yeah,
chest, down to your knees, or whatever it is, whatever the rules say. And the arbiter, the umpire behind, judges if the person doesn't swing. They have to make a rule. They have to make a
okay,
decision, an assessment on
yeah,
where the ball was placed, based, where the
yeah,
ball came in, to determine if it was a ball or a strike,
yeah.
and that
Okay,
determines
so
things.
with the baseball analogy, you could come up with multiple, so it could be that's already longer than one video, but you could
Right.
say,
It would take a video just to explain the game in
yeah,
baseball.
yeah, but so it could be so governance is like a sports is governance is like your sports game or something like that. And then probably quite short, because everybody immediately gets that you need rules in order for the game to happen. And then there's governance, the analogy of a risk assessment, because somebody has been like, well, what happens if they physically move the plate? I could do that. You're running through it and then I move the base. Oh, that's a risk. So therefore we adjust the rules to say that the base must remain in a certain position or something like that. So now
Right,
we've
or it
added,
has
so
to
we've
have,
asked,
there are physical positions and distances between objects in a
yeah.
baseball game.
And I'm
There's
sure
distance between the pitcher and the, yeah,
many of these
pitcher.
rules have
uh,
come
that-
from risk assessment. You're like,
right,
somebody, yeah. So from your analogy, you can say that number one, governance is what makes the game worth it in the first place, because a ruleless system is not interest, except for might is right and stuff like that. Number
well,
two,
it creates integrity within the
yeah,
game.
and
Just
okay,
like a
yeah,
governance system
yeah,
creates integrity on the participants that are
right,
relying, or the participants and the relying parties on the
yeah,
game. You have
yeah.
spectators and you have players, right?
Okay,
So,
so that would be the general idea of why we want governance is for the integrity of the game for all participants, internal and external. Number two, we begin by making rules and we informally or formally perform risk assessments because our rules are always written to address risks. What happens if they move the base? What happens if I hit you in the head and then oops, now you're out and I don't and that was my strategy for how to win the game, and so
right.
on. So we've got purpose of governance, establishment and risk assessments. Then we have the conformance example as the umpire who's managing the game. And then yeah, so we could write out a series of scripts using a baseball analogy in order to describe different factors of a governance system. After,
Yes.
after, so the point of governance, risk assessment for establishing or modifying the governance rules, conformance, maintenance by umpires. Another one,
Um,
I'm trying to think to your figure eight. You have the ultimate bodies, like the standards body, which is running all the rules of the conformance program, who can say who's an umpire and who's not, and bad
yes.
umpires presumably can be removed.
Well, yes, I can do some
Yeah,
research on that, but Major League Baseball has an umpires association. They have a
right.
rules committee.
Yep.
So I'll give another analogy because it happened yesterday in football. So the risk in football over the last, let's say 10 years, risk has been significant injury to players.
Right.
And so they wanted to reduce the risk of injury. And on a kickoff where people are running, 40 yards at top speed at 20 miles an hour, smacking into someone that's not looking at you because he's focusing on catching the ball
Right.
creates risk to the catcher. And they
Right.
would get absolutely, decked and go to the hospital. So they wanted to reduce that. So they have been over the last few years have been tweaking the kickoff rules to reduce that's a great example because that's a known risk and they've
Yeah.
changed the rules
Yeah.
to modify the
Yeah.
game so
Yeah.
that they would risk. So now no player, no tackling player can move until the receiver actually touches the ball.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
And
so
so
that's
then now everyone's ready and a person is moving towards they have more awareness as opposed to catching the ball, looking up and getting, creamed by
yeah.
the tackler.
So
And what
this
was interesting about yesterday is they came up with a new rule like the last year, and a player didn't understand the rule and
right.
let the ball go over their head and didn't realize that even, as long as it's still in the field of play, it's a live ball. And so the Seattle
Okay.
Seahawks player came in, sat on the
Yep.
ball, touchdown, and the person lost 6 points
Yeah.
because they did not understand the rule.
So we have an okay, so there's two things there from that story. Number one is that governance is an ongoing and evolving process to address new risks as they appear. And
Correct.
number two, that there's an education and training and publication of because you have to, with the new introduction to, with new rules as they come up, everybody in your ecosystem needs to understand the implications and what their responsibilities are.
Right. So that it is up once the rule has become effective and out, and usually the newspapers mention it, it is incumbent upon the team. The team now owns the responsibility to know the rules. And so there was an interview with the coach of the team that screwed up on the rules, said, yes, we knew the rule and we practice. We knew, we practice that rule. We all know the rule. The person forgot the rule in the
Yeah, in the heat of the moment
heat
and
of
stuff like
play.
that.
In the heat
Yeah,
of play. Right.
yeah. Okay. And I'm looking at the two stack model here. So we have risk assessment, governance requirements, and then the residual risk assessment, which we talked about is in that example, the auditors and the agreements and stuff. Yeah. Okay. So we could do a series of
Yeah, I being
videos.
a sports fanatic that I am, I would enjoy, and I think people would get governance a lot better through sports. They care a lot more about sports than they do care about, IT governance. And
Not me.
so, except for you, yeah,
Except for me.
exactly.
Maybe
Well,
we could
we
do a
could
whole
figure
other.
out something else. I don't know, but
Yeah, well, no, I understand, but the sports is a very specific ecosystem, a very, that makes sense from a governance point of view. Yeah,
and it plays to every, if you're in India where you're a
yeah,
mad cricket fan, they have rules too. I mean, it's
yeah,
every game
yeah,
has to have rules. If they
yeah,
don't, then you're basically going out and just throwing the ball around for the enjoyment of throwing balls around.
yeah. What is the Calvin and Hobbes equivalent? Calvin and Hobbes have where they constantly make up the rules as they go along.
There you go. Oh, there you go. We could bring that. I'd like to see that one actually. So
Yeah, I
that would be the
wonder.
chaos we see.
Yeah.
All
Um,
righty. So I'll let me noodle on that. And I guess what I've seen that you have done in the past is you've written at least an outline, and then you've written content that can be narrated.
yeah.
Um, you do an amazing job of narration. Your voice is just very palate. You cleanse the palate of listeners with just that. I understand that deeply. Because I've had works that have been narrated and all that, so we can
Yeah. Yeah.
talk about that on a separate channel. But anyway, so
Oh,
I'll try to set that up within, I'll have it on it's on my list, so I'll get to it when I can get to it. I could have time um soon based on
okay. Yeah.
on priorities that are happening. There could be a lull in
Yeah.
in in work for me,
Yeah.
so I'll kick around uh the topic. I think we could focus on first governance,
Yep.
as opposed to IT governance. Let's talk about governance, and we'll
Yeah. And
deal
then
with it
get
in
more
sports.
specific about how, yeah. So, okay. And the game is Kelvin ball.
Kelvin ball,
The
is
only
that
permanent rule in Kelvin ball is that you can't play it the same way twice. And then Hobbes is
well,
saying
then that's difficult because then you have to have a listing of all the ways you played before. I don't know if I can remember it.
the score is still Q to 12. So
Gotcha.
that's
Gotcha.
the,
Well, that's an interesting analogy on, what happens in a scenario where it doesn't have rules. And maybe that's part of the rule, right? There's a
Mm.
rule that it doesn't have rules. That's a
Yep,
rule.
yep.
There you go. All right.
Okay. Okay,
Excellent.
yeah. And then so we can do the basics of governance, tying it then more specifically to the work of trust over IP and maybe governance concerns that you would want to address. For example, that was why I was coming up with the different models of DIDs, because at some point different models address different risks. So you have to lay out what risks you want to address, and that helps you pick which DID method you want to use or which collection you want to accept in your ecosystem and stuff like that.
Got it. Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Cool.
All right.
Okay.
So I'll try to I'll focus a little on baseball, but I will try to incorporate. I think if I'm just not I'm not a soccer fan, but that's the most extensible
Global. Yeah.
game in the world right now.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll try to come up with some things and then at least come up with a baseball and a soccer
Yeah.
reference.
What I do that's helpful is I write it out in point form first to get my idea flow. And then I put it into ChatGPT to get my first draft. And then I go back and edit that for what I want.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what you
You do
put
what you
into
want.
ChatGPT is you put in a list of questions.
The point form. So if I already have a pretty good idea, like I'll do the flow by writing it out in point form, idea one, idea two, like I'm introducing it and then supporting it, and this is my analogy and so on. And then I put the point form in and I say, rewrite these points into an accessible script for narration. And that takes roughly 2 minutes. I mean, of course, you can just write it out yourself, but I find I work faster by getting it first into ChatGPT, and then I go through and I change it and edit it from that.
Okay, okay. That'll be a fun thing and I can get that done. I can get that done this week, actually.
Okay.
Right now, I see that, now's the time. Usually I kind of look at where I'm at, where am I at with certain things. I have some time this week, for a variety of reasons where, I don't want to make public. So, all right, sounds good.
Okay.
So I guess
Okay. So I
I
have
will
just
see you later today. Right.
crap. I better make sure that's on my calendar. Okay. And in this script, here is the link, and I put a link to where if you wanted to put it into bite-sized trust, then you could start working on the scripts in that at that point.
Okay. Let me get the right. Okay.
So put it in the
Hold on a second. Let me make sure that it pops up for me. Bite-sized trust task force charter and
Yeah.
scripts.
And then I have scripts ideas, and inside that is governance scripts.
Oh. Oh, so you've been adding as we've
Just
been talking.
no, I just made the heading for that, and then
Okay.
but yeah, as we were talking, we talked about a script of general concept.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see you have a bunch. These are kind of ideas and
Yeah.
where we're at and where we're not at. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. All right. All right. So yeah, I will
Okay.
I'll do that. That'd be great.
Awesome. Okay, thank
All
you.
right. My
Bye.
pleasure, Carly. Hopefully we'll get
Oh,
it set up. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
yeah. I had it in my calendar.